Hey guys, California Phantom here. I'm at my favorite park to record, Bartholomew Park in Elk Grove, California, here to tell you about the interesting story that happened to me about a week ago. First, you have to understand the players. It involves a Samsung S7, a 7-year-old child, a wife, and a Galaxy 10.
Okay.
So my 7-year-old kid is notorious for being difficult with electronics. I purchased him a 10-inch Samsung tablet. He owned it for approximately a year and a few months, just beyond the warranty period, and he broke it. He decided that it was a good idea to take the tablet into a shower, and unfortunately I didn't catch it in time, and the rest is history.
It was at this moment he knew. He f***ed up.
So I came up with the bright idea to allow my son to borrow my wife's Samsung S7, and that's really where the things got complicated. So he's had the phone about a month, and I do want to remind you there is no cell service. So anything he's getting it from my hotspot internet connection from my iPhone 7 Plus, or he's getting it from the Wi-Fi at home. We don't allow him to have cellular service. At this point, he's 7 years old. So he's been using this phone about a month without problem. He's downloaded his games. He's mostly watching YouTube Kids when he's bored or he's out and about when we're taking him to dinner or different places. He likes to use the phone. No big deal. So it was this day about a week ago that I took him to the nearest Walmart. So I took my son into Walmart. We go directly to the aisle where they have the bike equipment, and I pick out a patch kit, no problem. When I turned to him, unfortunately, he didn't have his cell phone. And I asked him, "Where is your cell phone?" He looked at me, said, "I don't know, I think it's in the car." That was the first red flag because I was convinced that he brought the phone into the Walmart. So I was wondering how on earth, just from a direct walk to the bicycle aisle, he can lose it. So he spent about 10 minutes looking around the general area, trying to find his phone. Kept telling me it was in the car, so I thought, no big deal. Went ahead and purchased the bicycle kit and beelined it directly to the car. What surprised me was after I purchased the patch kit and I made it to the car, I actually saw next to his seat this Samsung S7. I was a little confused. I'm like, maybe he did just leave it next to his seat in the car. No big deal. So I proceeded to go home. I made it back to the house only to discover my wife rifling around through things looking for her cell phone. She told me that she was convinced she left it. She had a department meeting or a meeting at the district office, as she is a teacher, and she had left the phone behind. I was a little skeptical, of course, because she is notorious for misplacing her cell phone but never losing it. So being the tech-savvy guy that I am, I pulled up the camera footage from my house, and I saw that in fact she did not leave the house with her cell phone. So where is it? The gears didn't click at first, as I realized that my son had his cell phone. The fact that I thought he had a cell phone really made no sense to me whatsoever.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real.
So we're searching my house about a half hour before I'd reached the epiphany. If the iPhone has the ability to be tracked, why doesn't the Android? So I began with a simple Google search, and I looked up how to track an Android phone through the internet. Lo and behold, there is a website that you can visit. You can log into your Google account and find out exactly where your Android phone is, as long as the location services is turned on. So what I discovered after logging into my wife's account, that somehow, even though we reside in Sacramento, her cell phone is in Roseville. And that was the second red flag. We were initially skeptical at first. How can a phone go from being in the house, being with her, all the way out into Roseville, which is a good half hour, 40 minutes. So that's when things got even more interesting. I checked the website and there was 3 options. Wipe the phone, lock the phone, sound the alarm. So the first thing I did was, thinking that this phone was still in fact in our house, I sounded the alarm so that we could hear it. My wife is notorious for leaving the phone on silent, so we couldn't just call the phone. The alarm feature would ensure that we'd be hearing it if it in fact was in the house. So we detonated the alarm a couple of times and we could not find the phone no matter what. We checked cars, we checked the garage, we checked in the backyard. It was quite ridiculous, but we couldn't find it. This brings me to red flag number 3. I actually decided at that point that this thing may in fact be accurate, so that I chose the second option, which was lock the phone. I decided to lock the phone and detonate the alarm every 1 minute. There's a 1 minute duration for the alarm to go off, and then it stops. So what I did was I detonated the alarm, I would wait the minute, I would detonate the alarm, I would wait the minute, all while trying to figure out where specifically in Roseville this phone is. Here's the spooky part. At some point along my detonation run, a call came in on my cell phone, and it was from my wife. Only problem with this was I turned to my side and my wife was standing right in front of me. That was the most dreadful moment of this entire adventure. I knew in that moment there was no more red flags. This phone had in fact been stolen. I quickly picked up the phone. I told him,
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
I believe you have my cell phone? The man calmly said, I can't speak to you right now, I'll call you later, and hung up the phone. Now, coming from somebody who has found things like cell phones in recent past, it was a little odd for me that it would first all be all the way in Roseville, and secondly, when you do call somebody, you call them only to say you can't talk to them and hang up the phone. My spidey sense was definitely tingling. So enraged at this point, and confused as all hell, I told my wife, let's get in the car, let's get your kid, and let's get your cell phone. This is where it gets really funny because unfortunately for me, in my fit of anger, I had 9% battery left and I took my wife's car to go chase this guy down. We did not have a cell phone charger, my phone was rapidly depleting, but somehow through it all, we made it all the way to Roseville and after this guy. The story takes yet another twist when I find out that this phone is in fact located and pinging from HP's headquarters. So in a fit of anger, I park the car right in the fire lane, right in front of the building. I march straight in there and I tell the lady, listen, this is the situation. Somebody has my phone, it's pinging from your building. I would really like it if somebody can find this individual and get my cell phone back. To her credit, she was very calm. She spoke to me very dignified, but she told me, hey, listen, this is a secure facility. We would love to help you, but unfortunately, we can't just start walking around checking people's belongings for your cell phone. That was when the head of security came out, and we had a good long discussion on what the protocol would be in a situation like this. Because I didn't want to call the cops, have the cops running around the place trying to find this phone. We knew exactly what it was, where it was in the building within a 10-foot radius. It would have been easy for us to find the individual specifically. To the head of security's credit, he gave me the advice. He said, listen, I would text that individual that you're here at HP, you're waiting for it out front, that you want him to turn it into security so that I can get it back. That is when this thing took a turn for the worst. After I text the individual that I was at his HP work, looking for my cell phone and to turn it into the office manager, we had several people walking out the door while I was discussing this with the head of security. Little did I know, I spooked him enough where he left his job, left in his car, and took off. I didn't know this. I wasn't actively pinging the phone. I was talking to the security, but we ended up with, for me to come back before the end of the day to check people, to ask people as they were exiting the office building. Mind you, these are hundreds of people working in this office. I wanted to say it was close to 1,000 in the main building, so it would have been a big ordeal, but I was willing to do that to get my wife's cell phone back. So I go to my car, I tell my wife the situation. She obviously wants to call the cops because she knows the person's in there. He's not willing to answer the phone. He's not willing to give us our product back. So I decided to ping the phone again. So this is when I'm a little dumbfounded. I ping the phone again, and I find out it's in Curry Court in Elk Grove. Now, I don't know if it's that scumbag's address, but I have exactly where he went. So what am I to do again? I text his ass again. Listen, I know you're on Curry Court right now. You're trying to leave, but I'm following you currently, and I will contact the authorities if you don't give me my phone back. Within minutes, he calls me up again. Oh, I have your cell phone and I'd like to return it, but I want to find out if there's a reward. A reward? The guy's immediately asking for a reward. As I was thinking 300, 400, maybe 500. At this unsettling point, I knew this guy was extorting me. A normal person who finds something that belongs to someone else and they could reunite it to that person don't demand and or ask a reward. Furthermore, they certainly don't give dollar amounts as an expectation for finding such a product.
My trick's gonna work, gonna make all the money.
So being the quick thinker that I am, I told them, yes, I'll give you a reward. Of course I'm gonna give you a reward. It's an expensive phone. Just tell me where you are and I'll go get it because I have a reward for you. He tells me to meet him at Home Depot, and I immediately ping him again, and he's heading in that direction from his address or from wherever he was at in Curry Court in Elk Grove, and I begin to follow him. Within minutes, we reach to Curry Court, and my wife is ready, just like Dog the Bounty Hunter, to jump out of the car.
Get him, yo, get him. Get him. What's on the ground?
And I tell her, listen, I'm gonna deal with this guy. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want anything to happen to you. What makes her so mad is she instantly recognizes him from the guy who walked out of the building and walked past us. He got into a car that was right next to her when he took off. She said he definitely looked like he was rushing to leave. So I, of course, parked the car once again in the fire lane right outside the front door of Home Depot, and I walk right up to him. So I get out and immediately walk to him. I said, I have just one question to redeem yourself. One question. Why didn't you just turn the cell phone in? I was really hoping. But instead, the answer he had to my question was, Now, mind you, he did hand me the cell phone. Because if he didn't...
The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo.
I cannot tell you how pissed I was. But how relieved I was. Several hours into tracking, following, figuring out, pursuing, and apprehending the person who had my cell phone. I was so relieved. Then it became the question of, how did it all happen? So thankfully for me, with the Galaxy S10, the phone, when you lock it through the web browser, through the site that I will list in the description, you can lock the phone and prevent it so that it cannot be turned off. So my wife's phone could not be turned off. If you held down the power button, you had to use a biometric thumbprint, or you had to use a code to access the phone so that you can then turn it off. And was the only way that you could turn it off. For whatever reason, in a panic, because this guy wanted to keep this cell phone, left his work because the alarm kept detonating and he couldn't turn off the cell phone. This app was fundamental in constantly being able to track him, and I have to give a big shout out and a big thanks to Samsung for allowing the software, allowing the programming so that you cannot turn off the cell phone, because I believe that was the difference maker. And come to find out, the final story went a little bit like this. My 7-year-old is fixing to go with me. He puts his shoes on. He has his old Samsung S7, but he likes mommy's phone better because mommy has the phone. She can make calls. She can access the regular YouTube instead of just the kids' YouTube. So he puts his phone in his pocket. And then he sees my wife's phone and he takes it. He takes mommy's phone. Being the oblivious moron that I am, I lead him right out to my car. I see that he has a cell phone in his hand, but I don't see whose cell phone is in his hand. He jumps in the car and we head off to Walmart. My son, in the midst of traveling, must have dropped his cell phone out of his pocket, which is why his cell phone ended up next to him on the seat in the back. He did in fact bring my wife's cell phone into that Walmart. He in fact lost it and set it down somewhere while we were buying bicycle equipment, and we walked away from it. After we walked away from it, scumbag decided he was going to grab it because he saw a very expensive cell phone, and instead of turning it in to someone at Walmart, he thought he could just take it. He drove clear out to Roseville to his job, went into his job, and then things got complicated for him. I started blowing up my phone, I started detonating an alarm, and more importantly, I locked him out of it completely so he couldn't turn it off and do whatever he wanted to do with it. I'm going to show you his picture now. I'm going to show you where he stopped, and I'm going to show you where he works. This goes out to everybody at HP. You have a scumbag who works for you, somebody who's opportunistic, somebody likely abusing some kind of system within HP, and I don't believe a company like HP should be employing these losers. This guy doesn't deserve to have a job. He deserves to be in a breadline. And that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below letting me know if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next adventure, which is Mexico.